Welcome friends to another r/maliciouscompliance video. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by Wandering Black Cat. If you're not happy, then quit. Okay, boss. I never quit a job in my whole life without giving a suitable notice. But not this time. My encounter with one of the worst managers I've ever had the misfortune to work for. My family was not rich, and I needed to get as much money as possible after I turned legally able to work to pay for my school tuition. I worked for a temp agency specialized in logistic and transport jobs. I took as many jobs as possible, day jobs, 2-hour paid only jobs, weekly jobs, and always made my employer satisfied. They trusted me even for the toughest jobs you can imagine. I have one simple rule: treat me with respect, and I will respectfully work for you. Even doing sometimes overtime's fine by me as long as the employer is nice. This is the story about me working for a new warehouse dealing with shipments. We were about 10 young men, all university students, and would have to work shifts from 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. from Monday to Friday, no overtime, no extra pay on night shifts, just the basic minimum wage and nothing else. No cash for food, nor gas money. Our job was to dispatch all kinds of parcels into different trucks. It was summer, so it was darn hot. So hot you could grill a steak on the pavement. And of course, no aircon, but that makes sense as doors were always kept open. Not only was the job tough, but the warehouse managers barely respected safety rules. For example, parcels that exceeded 25 kilos are not allowed to be carried alone. When one of us dared tell the aisle manager, let's call him Jerk, that it was way too heavy to be left alone, he would just say, "Don't be a wimp. Everyone here's doing the same job. If they can lift it, you can do it. And if you're not happy about it, just leave. You're not irreplaceable." He kept yelling the same things over and over in that small warehouse. We were all assigned to a different gate, therefore we were all working alone, but not too far from each other. Days were always busy, and we could only have a 5-minute break for a quick shot in the toilets or a quick smoke. The worst was for people assigned at the bottom end of the warehouse. They literally had to run the whole way if they wanted to take a trip to the washroom. Worst thing, Jerk barely helped anyone on the floor. He just spent his time walking around and yelling, "Don't forget you're not irreplaceable. There are plenty of people begging for a job outside willing to take your place." And the one I hated the most, "If you're not happy, then leave." The job was already painful enough. Why did he need to make it more annoying? Sometimes parcels could barely fit inside a truck as it was getting fully loaded. Jerk would usually yell at us for being incompetent and would literally kick parcels, smashing the content to make it fit inside the truck and proudly say, "You see? How can this be that complicated?" The icing on the cake was one night we arrived as always at 2:45 a.m. All of us falling asleep and no one to open the gate for us. We waited until 3:30 until Jerk arrived and straight away yelled at us, "What the heck are you doing here?" We say, "Well, we're here to work." They say, "The trucks have been delayed. No need for you to be here. Get back home." We say, "Are we still going to get paid? We showed up. No one told us not to come." He smirked and said, "Why would you be paid? You're not working. Now get back home and no need to come unless we call you." We were stunned and darn furious. As Jerk left, we all agreed on a few things. Here's where the revenge starts. No one showed up at work the next day. I receive a call from angry Jerk at 3:30 saying, "Where the heck are you? There's work to be done." I say, "You told us not to come unless you'd called us." He says, "Then what do you think I'm doing right now? Get the heck up and get here." I say, "I'm sorry, Jerk, but you're not my employer. I'm employed by temp agency name, therefore all shifts must be confirmed by my employer before allowing me to go on site. The office opens at 8:30, so please call them and they'll call me." I hung up. At around 9 a.m. I received a call from my temp agency asking why all of us didn't show up. I gently explained everything, and the agency asked me if I could go there now. I explained that I couldn't as I had to attend some classes. After a short conversation about the working conditions we had, the agency asked me if I could go there the day after. I told them that I could probably finish the week. It was a weekly contract, but I wouldn't be interested to stay longer. They understood. We all showed up the day after, and sure enough, Jerk was pissed off. He started yelling at us, always stating that we're a darn spoiled generation that knows nothing about hard work and takes everything for granted, etc., and we all got back to work. Again, he started the same thing, not helping but just yelling around, "If you're not happy, then quit. You're not irreplaceable." I stopped putting parcels in the truck and said, "You're totally right, Jerk. I'm not happy, so I quit." He says, "What the heck are you talking about? Get back to work." I say, "You just told me that if I wasn't happy, I could quit." "Then you're right, I quit." He says, "Get back to work or I'll..." "Or you'll what?" I asked gently. "Jerk's right, I quit too," said another staff. And within a few minutes, the 10 of us left the warehouse, as Jerk kept screaming he'll get our butts. It was 5:30 a.m. and there was a ton of work to do, but only Jerk and some management staff in the office were there, left with a crap ton of work to do. I received another call from my temp agency who asked what happened. How can 10 people decide to leave their job on the spot like that? I explained that I simply did what Jerk told me. I'm not happy, so I quit. And then I added all the safety processes that weren't respected at work. No safety gloves provided, no earplugs provided, carrying heavy goods without any help, etc. They told me they would have a meeting with the person in charge, but to please never do something like this again. And yeah, I still worked from time to time for this temp agency after that. My conclusion and what I learned from it: treat people with respect and they'll respect you. Treat them like crap and karma will simply hit you. I do believe, whether the scale is big or small, that what OP and the coworkers effectively did was form some kind of union. And when the union format didn't really work, sometimes you just gotta take drastic measures and not put up with BS. Would you rather not be working at all, making no money, over a job that would actively make you miserable like this one? Let me know in the comments down below. All I can really say is I have a lot of admiration for all these people, regardless of their situation. Maybe a lot of people couldn't really afford to quit, but they still stuck together and realized, this isn't okay, this isn't for me or for us, let's go out together and really force their hand. Our next story is by Barbecue and Heck. You say that your order is less than a kilo? Let's weigh it. A bit of a background: I own and operate a barbecue and grill restaurant. We run a special promotion for the Euro. We have a promotion for 1 kilogram of skewers, pork or chicken, for €6.50. This happened on a Saturday night. A group came to watch the match between Belgium and Portugal. One of them is a guy known to almost all of the restaurant owners in town. Let's call him Jerk. Jerk has a tendency to complain about the food in order to get freebies, either something extra or the whole order. They place their orders, and about 20 minutes later they're served. A few minutes later, my head server, Mary, comes inside. Sit-downs are only permitted on the patio due to the pandemic. Furious. Mary says, "Give me the scales." Me, slightly confused, I was sweating over the grill since we had a lot of orders, saying, "What for?" She says, "Just give me the freaking scales." I give her the electronic scales. She grabs an empty plate and heads outside. I follow her because I know that something's up. She goes to the group that includes Jerk, puts the scales on the table, and proclaims, "Let's weigh them." You see, Jerk had ordered the promotion and then said that his order was missing almost half of it and demanded 4 more skewers to make it correct. His words. Now, in almost any other place, he would probably be right. Most of them buy their skewers already made and they weigh between 100 to 120 grams, which means that a kilo is usually 10 skewers. But we prepare our skewers in-house and are much bigger, between 180 to 220 grams, which is written on the menu. So our kilo is usually 6 of them. So basically, Jerk was demanding almost another kilo of meat for free. Jerk smugly says, "Yeah, let's weigh them and then you can bring what you still owe me." Mary grabs the skewers and a fork and starts removing pieces of meat and placing them on the scales. Initially, Jerk has a very smug smile, but he starts to frown when 3 skewers are emptied and the scale shows more than half of a kilo of meat. Finally, with the second piece from the 5th skewer, the scale showed just above a kilo. Mary, holding the remaining skewers and smiling smugly, says, "It seems you were right about the order not being correct. We put more. I'll take those," waving the skewers in her hand. "Back to the kitchen. Enjoy your food." Mary returned smiling to the kitchen and put the skewers aside, while Jerk ate his kilo of meat sullenly and the rest of his group smirking. Considering how much of a scam artist they were, I'm surprised that they kind of went along with it. I would have figured that they would have raised some kind of fit, complained about stuff, just trying whatever they could to get another route to explaining away that they deserve another kilo of meat somehow. But impressively, they just kind of submitted to the will that is Mary, and Mary got them to just shut up and eat their meat and be quiet. This next story is by PG Yoon. Don't like the raise you got? Go somewhere else. So I previously worked as a customer service rep for a big health insurance company for almost 2 years. It was my first job out of college, so I was just trying to get my feet wet and ultimately move on to something else within the company. I hit my year within the company a couple months after the pandemic hit and crap hits the fan. Parts of the company go on hiring freezes and the roles available get snatched up very quick, and it's super competitive. I apply to multiple positions and don't even make it to the interview stage. It's alright because I'm thankful for my current role providing me job security, even though the pay is abysmal. Fast forward to early 2021 when our annual review happens. I'm mentally checked out of the role but still doing extremely well, stats and metrics wise, and I'm excited to see how big my raise is. I finally have my review with my manager and get a 4 overall on my review. Reviews are conducted out of a scale of 5. Typically people would get 3s and that's pretty good, but getting a 4 is very, very good, and one would expect a big raise with that. I'm super pumped that I got a 4 and I'm expecting a big raise, and finally towards the end of my review, we discuss the raise. My manager states that my 4, which again is rare and super good, nets me a 1% raise. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of how much that is exactly because it's rather embarrassing, but let's just say you would barely even see a difference in my paycheck. I was stunned, and I asked my manager how I could get such a small raise with such a good review. My manager says essentially something about the budget only allowing me a 1% raise, and if I don't like it, I should look for something else. I have to admit, I was slacking on the job search, but that really kicked me into overdrive. 2 weeks after that, I was in the interviewing stages for 3 different roles at the same company, or our sister company, and after a month of that, I got an offer I couldn't refuse. The new position came with a 32% increase in salary, and I couldn't have been happier. I told my boss that I accepted a new role and mentioned the increase, and my boss was shocked. It was also very inconvenient because I was the most experienced person on the team, so a lot of coworkers would come to me for questions or advice, and I also had been assigned to special projects that I was expert in, and now they'd have to find someone else for that in a short period of time. In conclusion, know your worth and don't settle for less. Absolutely, OP hit the nail on the head here. If you ever find yourself working a job where it's a struggle, you're going along slowly, and then you're not even getting paid well enough to really put up with all that stuff, maybe you feel ignored as well, maybe your concerns feel downplayed. If you have the opportunity to find another job or look for another job, you need to do it because you need to know your own self-worth. Not letting people trample all over you is probably one of the best things you'll find you'll do for yourself, really at any point in your life. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.